The essence of Palmer is just one of the nicest people I have ever met in my life. I never hear anybody say anything bad or negative about Palmer.
It was as if he were a physician coming in and just checking the vital signs of a very important patient in our community. That's the kind of leader we need, is the one who doesn't announce what he's doing, but the thoughtful one who infiltrates the bloodstream of our society.
I think it's because he has such an amazingly large heart. He is just a caring, kind, gentle man.
He's focused, but he can joke about things, and it's enjoyable working with him.
I will be ever grateful for Palmer DePaulis and his outstanding service to our great state. He has been a trusted member of my cabinet, both at the Department of Human Services and the Department of Community and Culture. Palmer serves with heart and passion. He understands the greater community while still caring about the individual. He is a powerful advocate for Utah's most vulnerable and has initiated a thoughtful and innovative system of care approach to provide individualized, culturally responsive services to children and families. Thank you for your service, and congratulations, Palmer, on being named the winner of the Jack Gallivan Legacy Award.
The first time I met Palmer, we were up at Primary Children's Hospital for some event, and I hadn't met him before. He was mayor of Salt Lake City at that point, and I heard him say, "Is anybody going downtown to give me a lift? I don't have a ride." And I thought, well, how very odd. But I said, "I'm going downtown. I'm Pamela Atkinson. I'm with Intermountain Healthcare." And he said, "Well, if you wouldn't mind dropping me off at City Hall." So I showed him my car, we got in, and I'm driving down First South. And we were chatting, and I said, "Just a moment, Mayor. We have come all the way down First South without stopping for one traffic light. Are you Superman or something? Do you have the powers to change all these lights?" I said, "It's never happened to me before." And so Palmer and I often joke about that and his powers to change red lights to green.
I first met Palmer when we were in college, and I have to point out he is older than I am. I am much younger. I had majored in French, and he needed to pass a foreign language to get his master's degree, so I tutored him through that, and he made me very proud because he got through it in flying colors. And then his wife would feed me, and I would spend weekends editing his master's thesis. And he got through that in flying colors.
Well, I first learned of Palmer DePaulis from watching the TV news. And here was this important community leader who was helping to be a part of an effort to create a shelter to help people get off the streets. And I thought, that's a good thing for a community leader to do. So it was one of those opportunities to really appreciate someone before you get the privilege of meeting him.
When I first met him, he was incredibly friendly and caring. He was mayor of Salt Lake City when I first started working for the city, and he was just, his office was always warm and friendly and open. It was always great to watch the public come in and interact because it was very welcoming. He was always a consensus builder.
And I think one of the major things that he did for our city was to lead the restoration of the city and county building. When I first moved here in '77, that place was surrounded with scaffolding, and nobody was doing anything about it. In fact, when we had to appoint Palmer the mayor, and he had to run for office that year, and he was running against someone whose campaign comment was that we should tear the building down. and replace it with something Western. And I remember all I could think of was, do we replace it with a barn or what? You know, where is this person going? And fortunately, Palmer had the fortitude to hold firm and convince the council, because even some of the council members were balking at the funding of this project and the bond. It was a huge bond to save the building. But now, everybody forgets all the conflict that occurred in the process, and they're quite proud of the restored city and county building. And it's a gem in this city. And it's kind of a beacon to everybody else who's trying to restore things in our state.
One of the things I love about Palmer is when you're in a meeting with him, he thinks it's great to talk about the problem for the first few minutes of the meeting. And once he's got where he wants to be, he'll say, well, I think we all understand what the problem is. Let's spend the next 45 minutes talking about possible solutions.
He is always working. You can't get him to kick back. There's always a project, even around his own house. He's always working on a project. Me, I could sit for a couple hours and read a book, but we've never been able to train Palmer to do that very thing.
I think the lasting impression for me with Palmer is when I actually met him in person when he was serving as the mayor of Salt Lake City, and I was serving as the cook at the St. Vincent de Paul Center. And Palmer would come down to the community dining room, not in all the din of activity when all the volunteers were present. It wasn't a good campaign moment. That wasn't his objective. He always came after we had served lunch, when he wasn't imposing, and he would talk to us and the longtime volunteers, and it was always about what we were seeing, the trends, were more people coming, more families, just getting a feel for the pulse.
He always steps to the plate and brings his partners with him and his supporters with him, because everybody that's ever worked with Palmer loves him, admires him, trusts him. He just inspires that trust in he will do what's best. Doesn't mean it's right or left, it's just he'll do what's right and he'll do what's best. Everybody is important, as I said. He values everyone. And to see people that are less fortunate and people not caring about them, I think that was one of the things that really motivated him to try and gather everybody together to say, this is not right.
He still feels to this day that there is good in everybody, and that for our homeless friends, there was a way out of homelessness. It was looking at everybody as an individual and saying what is right for that person and what is the best way to help that person.
You know, Palmer is smooth waters, man. I want to be like Palmer when I grow up. I just don't think it's gonna happen. He just has such serenity. What's interesting about that is that serenity really belies the intense passion he has to improve our society.
And he felt if we could change public policy to the effect of understanding what needed to be done to help homeless people, what needed to be done to help homeless vets, then it could be done through changing policy, yes.
I think one of the more important contributions that Palmer's work has done to influence public policy, particularly as it relates to homelessness, is his long-range vision. No sooner was the shelter in place in downtown Salt Lake City than he was already talking about the end game, the long-range strategy. Okay, we've got people inside. We've addressed the crisis of people sleeping on the streets. I witnessed that. I saw people suffering on the streets. I saw them move inside. And Palmer didn't stop there. It was about what's next, the next logical step.
He and I have brainstormed together so many times, I don't even remember how many times, but when things weren't going right, Palmer was always there with encouraging words, a hug, a smile, a comment on, well done. And he had the experience and the ability to look at what we were doing and say, well, maybe if we changed it just a little, it would really make a difference.
He really just kind of rubs off on you. You just can't help but be excited about doing good things or working with great people and feeling his enthusiasm and his the way he values everyone. It's contagious.
Thank you, Palmer.